I think is crazy. That's so impractical. I'm like, sir, slow down. That's not how you end up being good at being a waiter. Well, hello and welcome back to You and Idol Precure episode 4. Alright, let's go ahead and look at some of the comments. Thanks for the review. Since the story takes place in April, when school started, and they have a piano competition where one of the main characters fail, it reminded me of Year Lie in April. Also that the teacher is talking about the meaning of Chihaya Furu, which is another manga anime, and in the live action version of that, the heroine was played by the same actress, so I thought that it was a reference, which is interesting. Your Link is absolutely gorgeous, but I am a bit worried that her name may be confused with Cure Wing by children. Actually, I feel all the cures, including those I can't spoil here, were named pretty randomly, which I 100% agree with. I have been hearing people say Cure Wink, and I keep hearing either Cure Wing, or I've been hearing, like, people just say Wink, and I'm like, Winks Club? The names are so similar. I was, like, kind of worried about that, because I was like, Wink and Wing are unique names with the way that Japanese is phonetically, so I was like, I wonder if kids will have problems with that, and then I kind of glad somebody confirmed that suspicion. It'd be so funny, though. I don't think at this point they can have a movie with them all together, but it'd be so funny if there was a bit where Wing and Wink were getting confused the entire time and we swapped them from their groups or something. I think that would just be a little fun gimmick. Next one up. Wink's debut is serving so much wholesomeness, and her character song is just, chef's kiss. She's not gonna step backwards easily, and I'm glad that she overcame stage fright that she had endured for quite some time. Which I agree with, which I think is one of the interesting things in regards to Wink specifically, is to see where her character goes from here, because she basically overcame her shyness within her first episode, so the question is, what is her character arc for the rest of the series going to look like? And hopefully, as we have had unfortunately with Blue Cures, tends to get kind of like shoved to the side and then does nothing else with her character. I'm hoping that's not the case. I hope that they come up with some kind of plot line for Wink specifically that is pretty solid. They managed to do it with Mayu, so I'm hoping they can do it again here. And lastly with our comments, I enjoyed this episode. Nana, aka Wink, is the most charming and relatable Blue Cure. I love how she was reminded of having fun playing the piano and how her friendship with Uta, especially when she gave her the wink as a motivation for her to perform, was super good. I can't wait to see how Nana's development goes. Great video as always. Thank you, Rosie. And yeah, again, this just plays more into the concept of where is Wink's story going to go. So I think that's going to be something that we're all kind of focusing on, and we're interested to see how it plays out. So let's go right ahead into the story of this episode. I love that they changed the opening bank for us to now have Wink alongside Idol. I think that's very cute, and I really love it when they change those kind of things. Like, I feel like it does take more effort for them to go back and animate these because they usually have to have a little bit higher quality of animation. So I think it's very sweet that they actually went back and changed this. And as it probably implies, we'll likely see it change to have Kyun Kyun in the future. We start off in the Glitter Cafe, and we see Nana like happily playing the piano, so we're keeping up the whole bit where she's moving past her stage fright. But we do have the reveal that footage of her being Pure Wink is going viral just like Idol. And we have the reveal that it again was Puridoon doing it without their consent, which I think is weird that they've done this bit twice now. And I assume they're going to do it for Kyun Kyun as well. It's very odd to me that they keep doing this over and over again. Specifically because they made it such a big deal and they were really like hyping up the concept of consent in the last episode. Maybe it was 2 episodes. But like, I feel like them making this a bit as a joke kind of is taking away from the message that they had before, which was like, again, you need to have the consent of the people around you. You can't just film people and post without that. As well as the fact that it's very easy for Puridoon to ask. Like, there's not really a decent reason why Puridoon wouldn't get permission from the girls, especially since like we've already seen that Uta is 100% on board with, like, putting it out there. She really loves to have the spotlight. I feel like especially with somebody like Nana who did have stage fright and probably would have more reservations about that, there should have been a conversation in regards to consent. So I'm, like, other than it's like they need to have an excuse for people to know that Idol and Wink exist, there's no reason why Puridoon couldn't have asked and they created an arc about consent. It's weird. It's weird that they continued this bit. And then we introduce our new character for this episode and our unique kind of thing to the formula, which is Kaito. Kaito being a classic successful idol who has recently decided to travel the world. And then boom, he shows up to their cafe and they're like, that's crazy. Both of the main characters, Uta and Nana, seem to have an awareness of who he is, which before I was more under the impression that they had no idea who he was. It seems that they both have like tertiary knowledge. I also wanted to put this in here because I think this is one of the first times I've noticed that we've had a wide shot of the area, and I really like the layout of the town because you can see the Glitter Cafe on the right. We see the river that we have had lots of fun with thus far in the series. I love like the sakura trees that line it, but what I find kind of interesting, and I don't know if we've utilized this fully, is this stage. They have like this little mini park not too far away from the cafe that has this little stage on it, and maybe I just haven't been paying a lot of attention to some of the scenes, but like I think that's pretty cool. I think that's going to like be important moving forward, especially with the direction that the series seems to imply that it's going. I like that there is that stage as part of the setting. Also, just this shot's so cute. I think the town's very pretty. My girl nearly assassinates a cup of tea though, which I'm watching her. I'm impressed she didn't break anything this episode. It's very pink cure coded to destroy something. But she ultimately was like, I've got to serve Kaito some tea as a, you know, getting close to the successful idol. To which we learn that he definitely has like that idol glow that is referenced comedically throughout the entire episode. To the point where she constantly has to use her tray as a shield to reflect the, like, angelic rays that he possesses, which are so funny. We also get to see the family be not cool, calm, and collected. We have this whole silly bit of, we ran out of pasta, I must get more pasta for the spaghetti. Honey, you left your wallet! And then the child comes for some reason, too. It's very comedic and cute, and it's nice to see the family be goofy silly, because they've been pretty, like, normal for the most part, which inevitably leaves Uta with the cafe, and the cafe, of course, in the one moment comedically gets overrun by a lot of customers. And Kaito is like, I guess I'll help out, and just immediately starts helping. Like, sir, I understand that you see they're in trouble, but like, you really just kind of leaped into the role. I feel like that could have been a smoother transition. But Nana is taking advantage of this, and she's like, alright, we know how an ace idol behaves, so it's like our time to really shadow him and find the secrets of being a really good idol. He also does this wink that they do, and they've been doing for the past couple seasons. I want to say it started with Hodogudu Sky, but don't quote me on that. And he joins in and does the little heart wink, and I was like, oh my god, he's a cure. He's a cure! Your Honor, he's the green cure. We found him. He also makes this melon soda that looks so cute. And Uta is attempting to do the same as him, but like not doing it very well. I do want to give everybody a little tip. If you're like, wow, my ice cream scoop is not scooping the ice cream, run it under water, and then just when the water gets like a little bit warmer than room temperature, you're good, and it will go through that ice cream like butter. I have no advice for latte art though. That stuff looks real hard. I have no clue how to do that. But he does a little heart. And then I believe is now going to be the sign. We get to see who's going to be our victim of the episode when Purirun, like, notices the Kira around them. Which I found kind of interesting. I know a lot of people were theorizing that Kaito was going to be the victim this episode, but I'm getting the sense that, like, his sort of inspiration, motivation, entity is, like, not as strong as it could be at the moment. I feel like there's a little bit more backstory to what's going on with him and why he's not being like a normal idol at the moment, and why he's not behaving as a normal idol at the moment, which I assume they'll get into as the series goes on. But yeah, it's interesting that it was her because I was like, we don't know anything about this woman. We have not talked to this woman. It's interesting that she's the victim because for the past few episodes, everybody who has been the victim has been somebody that like the girls have interacted with. So unique to see that changed up. Despite having this cute little competition for the episode with Uta trying to like reach the same sort of idolish levels of Kaito, she ultimately meets defeat, where he explains the reason that he's good at working in the cafe is because he had an actor role where he played a waiter, which I think is crazy. That's so impractical. I'm like, sir, slow down. That's not how you end up being good at being a waiter. Those do not equate to one another. This is the goofiest, silliest thing I've ever heard. But ultimately, Uta, bitter at her own personal defeat, bids him a kind of farewell as he goes off to do whatever it is that he's attempting to do with his life. They do pose the question here, which I really like how this was handled, where Nana hits him with the hard-hitting question of why do you do what you do? And most seasons of Precure have always gone with some kind of thing along the lines of, I want to make everybody smile. And while that is a good message, I was like God, I hope they don't do that here, because that's what they say every singular time. Every singular time it's about making other people happy, yay, woohoo, kind of deal. And again, it's just overdone. I absolutely adore that the way that Kaito handles this is he says specifically, and it makes very much sense for an idol, that I want to be somebody that people are excited to see. I want to make myself somebody worthy of people's attention, which is a great way of phrasing something that is inherently, like, has that selfishness element to it. Because at the end of the day, like, there is a level, as it would be in the entertainment industry, that you are attention-seeking, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Especially since the term attention-seeking does have negative connotations. But I like that he frames it this way, and there is a level of like, oh, I didn't expect it to go this direction. Like, it's surprising that it's not the, I just wanted to make everybody smile kind of deal. And I'm interested to see how that plays out for the rest of the series, because this is his resolve, but it's not necessarily the resolve of everybody else. I love it. It's unique, it's different, and it has a very interesting vibe for where they could go and explore what that means. And despite feeling very defeated, Uta ultimately does shine where she does, in which she is asked very specifically if she can help cheer up this one kid, because her songs always cheer up this kid who's crying. And we get to see her shine in the way that she does, and we get to see how she is an idol in her own way. And I think this does such a great job, especially since they're not doing it in the Precure department, of showing where our characters are novice but still have the, like, raw talent that is going to push them to be successful at what they're attempting to do. And I really like seasons like this, because we get to see a lot of the hard work and growth. This is one of the reasons why I'm a huge fan of Go Princess, because Go Princess really goes very hard and showcasing that Haruka is not naturally talented, as well as not naturally good at a lot of the things that she wants to achieve to be, like, the ultimate princess. And we see with Uta that she also doesn't have some of the intrinsic values, but she does have the areas where she shines, which here specifically her singing to cheer people up and add, like, a little bit of brightness in their life. And this is something that Kaito comes back and even notices, so I like that. And then here we finally dive into our victim of the week, who explains that she was feeling really unmotivated, but after having the fantastic air of the cafe between Kaito and the dog and everything, she finally feels like she has the inspiration to do what she needs to do. But then nonetheless, all of that to culminate in her being the victim. We get a neat pose of both Uta and Nana before they transform, which is pretty cool, as they're really getting into the groove of things. And we have a pretty nice fight this episode. We really get to see the two of them in action. And one thing that this episode doesn't do that typically happens around this point in time is have the two characters that we've introduced not coordinate very well. Usually early on we have some kind of fight, or not quite a fight between the characters, where they're just not on the same wavelength for fighting. These two coordinate very quickly together. It's not inherently successful, but they also are able to coordinate enough with each other that they realize that their attack's not going to work out, that they're able to escape from the perils of it. And I like that. Because we're focusing more on, like, what it means to be an idol, and we end up having this be more of a, like, Uta episode, it kind of takes the heat off of having the two of them fight. And I also think that if there's going to be any fighting, they're probably going to wait until Kyun. Any sort of disagreement, fighting, or not being on the same page, I think will happen later down the line. But it's nice, especially compared to, like, last season, it's nice that we're mixing this up already. I like that the formula is different. It's nice to see things. It's nice to see variety. But we do get a little, like, boop moment with Kaito, who comes in here and saves an old man who was about to get crushed, showcasing that not only is he the ideal idol, but he's also the ideal quote-unquote idol in the fact that he's also able to save people and be a hero and stuff. Something that we saw that Cure Idol was not capable of doing in the middle of this fight, where she's like, I'm still lacking in this department, and Kaito once again is doing really well in this. We also learned that Wink is a shielder type. We knew that this was coming, but we had to wait until it was fully revealed to have our little memorial. But despite Cure Idol feeling like she is inept compared to Kaito, even in this moment, she does ultimately, when it comes to it, is able to issue orders and is able to coordinate it, which already showcases something, especially that we haven't felt in a couple of seasons, is that she genuinely feels like a natural leader, but not in the sense that she's, like, forcing everybody to, like, follow her whim. She genuinely, like, that in, like, a pinch moment, she's able to sit there and step up and guide people as she needs to as a leader, which I think is already very appealing. I feel like they're doing a great job at balancing your character between having faults and then also having pluses, which is something I feel like I used to. I always rant on this, but like it's not a problem in most recent years. But historically, we've had a lot of issues with Precures where I feel like they have far more negatives than they do positives. And I really like that they've worked harder to balance that out. I think in some seasons they gave them 0 negatives, so their positives didn't shine very much. But in this season, it feels like they're giving Uta a good range of, she sucks at this, but she's really good at that. Nonetheless, after the fight has cleared, she does reflect again on those negatives. She's like, I was not as adequate as Kaito was at saving people, as well as not feeling as good at performing as an idol who can serve people. I just don't feel like I can do that. But she also reflects on the fact that I never got to thank him for the time that he was there, and he did help out, and he did, technically speaking, show her a guide on what to do or what level to achieve. So she rushes out and, like, miraculously finds him on the beach. Don't, you know, it's a show, I don't know what to tell you. To which she realizes that he's out here, like, singing at the ocean. And we actually get to see a little bit of a visual of his kirarara, which we see is kind of like more massive than we have historically seen with characters, which I think is again supposed to imply of like he's this high-level idol-esque character with a lot more stuff going on. I get the vibe that he's got some sad boy things going on. He talks about like having recently traveled to New York, and I feel like maybe he going to New York and feeling inadequate compared to all of these really high-level Juilliard-esque performers. So I feel like there's a sad TM backstory somewhere in here with him, because it feels like he's not quite at his peak performing and confidence ability. So I'm interested to see where his story unfolds there, as well as how much he's going to be a reoccurring character, because he is on the set list to voice for next episode. No idea if that's going to be just a flashback or if he's going to presently be hanging out with the crew. We do know that he's going to be a prominent character because he has at least one shot in the opening, but I don't know how present he is to be in this series. He's like not feeling like he's going to be a Satoru level character, but I do think he's going to be more in the show than I thought he was. Ultimately, Uta is able to say thank you, and then he kind of like sits there ping-pong in that back being like, no, let me thank you. Which gives us an implication that I was really hoping they wouldn't go down this route. Like, them having kind of a catty, or mostly one-sided, like, catty sibling bit was where I was hoping that this relationship would stay. But they hit this whole, like, he gives her one of those lines that can be taken out of context in a romantic way, and she's all blushy, and I'm like, oh, please don't make this a ship. Like, normally with Precure, I assume this would go down, like, the Doki Doki Joe route, where he just says some really ambiguous romantic stuff all the time, but then there's, like, a backstory for why he said it, and it's not romantic. Shout out to, like, Japan having no clue what my sweetheart means, by the way. That was wild. But I'm hoping that whatever sort of romantic thing they're doing right here, on a personal level, hoping that goes away. Hoping that finds a way to not be relevant any longer. Like, you know, there's been a myriad of times where there's been some kind of, like, the main character decides to be romantically interested in some character, and then they're like, JK. I mean, we've had a myriad of them, like, crushing on somebody. But I'm hoping this, like, gets tampered out as quickly as, say, like, Ichika crushing on Cure Chocolat. Like, can we, like, eliminate it that quickly, please? Like, I want to say I'd have confidence that this is inevitably gonna go nowhere, because historically this stuff does not go anywhere. But we did just have 2 shows, both Otana and Wonderful, where romance was real, and one of those worse than the other. So I hope whatever's happening here, it best not be happening, and you put that away. Just saying. But then we have the reveal of Mane-san, aka the manager, who reveals that he is aware that they're Precure. And then the very high potential, and the reason why I think Kaito's gonna speak next episode, is that this is probably Kaito's manager, and he's probably like, Kaito, come back to the idol industry! And he's like, nah, bro, I don't really want to, actually. And he's like, fine, I'm gonna go for the Precure. But there's also the can of worms of, why does he know they're the Precure? This is very ominous. It sounds like from what's going to happen next episode, he's going to try to hire them. It's feeling very Idolmaster. It's also feeling very, like, introduction to Alice in Doki Doki, where her butler, who I'm 90% sure was named Sebastian, because every butler was named Sebastian during that time period. Shout out to Black Butler. But he straight up was like, hey, you know how you guys transformed in a public area? Yeah, we had security cameras everywhere, and they all recorded your transformation. I'm sure there's gonna be some kind of argument for why this happens. I also get the vibe that Kaito probably witnessed them transform, and then, like, the manager was there. Like, I would not be surprised if the next episode starts off with the two of them, like, fighting, and the manager and Kaito just witnessed them transform, because they very much did it in a public space. And honestly, the fact that the public has not been acknowledging that their cures running around is still very weird to me, so I'm hoping that changes next episode. So I'm like, they're not hiding very well compared to other seasons. They've been so much in the public eye that the fact that the only way the public has perceived them has been Pururun is wild. But we'll see. Now, as promised, I will go through the dance. This is going to be more me oogling in a very technical sense for this. So strap in. I don't have much to say about the music other than the fact that, like, it has not ensnared me yet. I don't super love the ending song as much as I feel like I could, but you know, it took the last season going viral with its ending song for me to be like, maybe I'll like this one. We'll see. I do love the set that they do for this, because it's kind of got like backstage energy happening for this part. I also like that they have this mixed media vibe where they're rendering these dresses, these like dresses on mannequins, in a very realistic manner, but it's still 3D. And then having like these side like disco lights coming through, and then they're on like a very specific wooden floor that's heart-shaped, as well as this is where I'm talking, the 3D is good here. This is like decent 3D, as they usually have had for, like, I think since Go Princess was the first season where I was like, I really like the way they're handling 3D. This looks good. Outside from like a few lighting situations, this easily could look like a more 2D screenshot for it, despite everybody being very round here. It looks very good. But to get a little closer look specifically at the dresses, you can see that they're 3D rendered. It kind of reminds me of the 3D rendering that they did for the early Barbie movies, specifically on how they're handling the sparkles and then the lighting of it. I wonder if they bothered to make these in like a separate 3D fashion software, or if they just used the cloth simulation in Blender. The last few seasons they've used Blender for their ending themes, and I doubt they've changed that. But usually they put out a post-mortem within the first few weeks of the show airing where they break down how they did that. So I'm waiting for the Oricon article regarding that and how they did it, because the Wonderful one was very insightful. I also really love this bit where it showcases these dresses that vaguely match their outfits, and then they pop in. But the shots look really great. I also love that they threw in the disco ball. They clearly were doing that for Leo, who's been asking for disco pretty gear for like the past 10 years. And then I love that they did this effect. So this is probably a reference to the trend that got really big starting with China. And then I believe they added this effect onto CapCut, where a lot of like dance covers have this really cool lighting that uses auto tracking to make it look like it's going around your body. I assume though that when they did this, they just used like the special effects within Blender itself, which would be a lot easier than like rendering something and then trying to like post-production it on there. So this is a lot easier to do in Engine. But the effect looks really cool, and it's a great reference to like pop culture and stuff like that. And we also get a good look at the heart being illuminated under them, which it's cool that it can change from the wood material to this kind of like striped prismatic sort of thing. They then kind of start to transition into this new space, and this really felt like a fresh Precure moment with the way they handled their dance theme. So they're just kind of in the like sparkly pink void. They kept the disco ball, shout out to that. And then again, just want to appreciate how good the 3D looks. Like this shot specifically, again, outside of like a few shadows, really looks super solid and could pass in some degree to 2D. I think the only, like, again, I think the shadows and some of the lighting make it look 3D, as well as the fact that I think it's very difficult to get the 3D model face shape to look like a 2D one, just specifically with the way that heads tend to triangulate at the very bottom, and it's always going to look rounded in 3D. I think that's just a trickier thing when it's not facing head on. But it just looks very good, and also the outfits look really good as well. I also like the expressions on them, especially Kyun's here. Looks great. They also do this bit where they now bring in the light sticks that they want you to purchase, because they always got to shoehorn that into the ending theme. And we move to this stage setting. They also do this like little tiny effect with it, which I thought was really cute. We also get to see that the audience is kind of like, I assume they probably just have like black blobs with black blob armies holding the light sticks, which is always one of the things I love about especially Japan's sort of resolution for having a quote-unquote audience in these scenes that aren't too heavy for rendering. I like that this is a solution because it genuinely feels like a lot of people there, but it's usually just a bunch of light sticks. I also really love this kind of like blurred line effect as they go around. I assume this was composited on top of the sequence because obviously the lights are not looking that way in reality. But I thought it was a really nice shot right here. And then of course we get to see this heart once more. Then they do this very nice like bokeh effect in the audience and it like glows gold and it looks super nice. And they kind of just rush the particles all over the set, which works really well. It's super impactful. And then I start to see that I think they must have done this in After Effects because a lot of the effects that they start using here, specifically the particle effects, are very familiar. Like I've seen that cross before. And they do like one where they all ascend as well. Just me being nerdy. As someone who has literally used After Effects, my little chibi was rendered in After Effects. I'm quite familiar with the particle system, so I feel like they did some post-production in After Effects to clean this up. I assume they probably did color adjustment and the effects using that. But overall, I think visually I'm happy with this, and I like the creativity and usage of materials they do for it. The song just really isn't for me yet. It could grow on me, I don't know. But that's enough of that. Thank you for joining me for episode 4. I'm finally done doing all of those reviews, so we won't have another like long-winded pause review until we get to Kyun's transformation. But until next time, I will see you later. Bye bye!